led by Councilman Lorenzo.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
I got the high chair today.
Oh,
You
no.
want to switch? You want to
No,
switch?
no, no. No, it's lower than this one. Yeah.
It's high, higher than I normally am. Like, yeah. Any response?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have 5 applications for the board's consideration this evening, and also there is a decision item. There are a lot of speakers here tonight, I see, so we're going to try to expedite this as quickly as possible. If you're planning to speak, you have to fill out a card. We will start with our first application, TC 5432, Tully Environmental, Inc., DBA Clearbrook by Daniel Galbraith. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the hearing notice.
Thank you. TC 5432, Tully Environmental, Inc., DBA Clearbrook by David Galbraith. Applicant requests a change of covenants and restrictions associated with TC 4468 and a planning board special permit for a transfer station pursuant to section 68-356.1A. Site plan modifications may also be required as part of this application. The environmental impacts will be assessed on this property located in the Islip School District on the north side of Green Street and south side of Essex Street through lot to Denver Avenue, Bay Shore, Town of Islip, New York. Olga Murray, Town Clerk, Islip Town Board.
Thank you. I see the applicant is here. If you would
Yes, good
please,
evening for the
your name
applicant.
and address.
For the applicant, David Gilmartin Jr., Greenberg Traurig, 900 Stewart Avenue, Garden City, New York. As the legal advertisement indicates, we're looking to change the zone on this lot from an industrial 1 to an industrial 2 zone. If granted, that would allow the combination of the lot that we're talking about to be combined with another lot that has the solid waste transfer station. The property may seem familiar to the board as this was part of an RFP where my client Tully won the bid on the RFP. The board has seen this application before. The zoning was changed, which exclude the ability to have the transfer station. I think the biggest point and the takeaway for this board tonight is that a grant of this application will not result in the expansion of the transfer station. The property and ultimately the building that we anticipate putting on it will allow us to have a small repair area for the equipment associated with the transfer station and then have our administrative offices. Those 2 functions are now done off-site and will allow our client the ability to consolidate that on the lot. An expansion of the transfer station would require a change in license that includes the town, the state, and the county, and that's certainly not contemplated now or as part of this application. The project has received approval from the planning board. During that process, there were some objections from neighbors having to do with smell. We've adjusted the devices that control that. We've also agreed to install a zip door, and those are on the current building that has the transfer station. A denial of the application would have no impact as that transfer station is going to exist whether this application is granted or not. Again, it's bringing another lot in, allowing us to have basically administrative building. And that's our case. I can answer any questions. David Galbraith, who's one of the senior executives at Tully is here, and he can answer questions as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant at this point? Hearing none, department, if you would come forward, please. Good evening, Sean.
Good evening. Thank you, Supervisor Carpenter, members of the board. This application follows through on the applicant's request for proposal that was awarded by this board to acquire that property to the west. The requested zoning change to industrial 2 is supported by the comprehensive plan for this area. And as you heard from the applicant, they've agreed to address the odor concerns via the door and filtration upgrades. So given its compliance with the master plan, the department has no objection to the request and looks forward to the cooperation of the applicant to address the neighborhood's concerns. Oh, sure. Sean Colgan, Town of Islip Planning Department, office here at 655 Main Street in Islip.
Thank you. We don't have, are there any questions for the department at this point?
Sean, is this gonna affect the future warehouse? It's gonna be on the west side of Denver,
It's not anticipated to because the
crossover streets going over to Saxon, right?
correct. This should have no impact whatsoever. There's no proposed road improvements other than a small minor one to extend to the entrance on the south side of this site.
Any other questions for the department? No one has signed up to speak on this hearing.
I'd like to, I just didn't see anything, any sign up for it on the neighbor.
Come forward, please.
I'm sorry to do that to you.
Yeah,
Saw no list and I came.
well, there
down
was someone out
twice.
there. Hi,
I'm sorry.
Steve, how are you?
Hi, yes, Stephen Fleischer, Fleischer Tube Distributors are right across the way. My big, I know they have a great, a business there, a transfer station for what it is, and I'm sure it's gonna work well for a good long time for them because it's a necessary function for all that's collected through the the cesspool pump outs that exist all over the county and all and of the two counties. I don't know when they come, but what concerns me most is by changing the zone from 1 to 2, that opens the door for any future changes from 1 to 2. And it's difficult to have these people here from the smells that come through. And some days it's very difficult for us working, and we're not going anywhere. We've been there for 50 years, and we have a rental that's a bakery. We've got a brewery, and I don't know how those, what comes off of their business, how it affects them, but it certainly affects the tenants and their complaints to me about it. And what exists there now, I understand, but what I'm afraid of by changing it from to industrial 2 there, and then the next lot, and the next lot, and the next lot. I mean, we're 50 yards away from a whole neighborhood of people. All of Saxon Avenue on the east side of the street is homes, and it just brings down the ability for people to want to be in our particular neighborhood where we've been for the last 50 years, and the industrial 1 that we're all self-contained, to continue on like that is just very difficult. And I just don't want to see industrial 2 and then the next lot opening up and the next lot opening up, because you're setting a precedence that can have lasting effects on anyone that might be there. And that's it.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Steve. Your comments are duly noted. Does the applicant wish to come up and address them?
To the extent that that's an argument against future lots being changed, we have, no response to that. We're looking at this lot and moving forward on that lot. We have no anticipation of buying any surrounding lots. So it's this specific lot that we're looking for. And again, I think the important point is we're not expanding the operation. Right? It's basically an administrative building.
Thank you.
I now do have questions. I didn't have questions, but I do now, based on the comments of the neighbor. Counsel, your client has read all of the covenants and restrictions that go with this proposed change of zone,
Correct.
and they'd agree to all of them.
Yes.
I'm going to read administrative number 2 for you, because something was mentioned about odors and the type of business that your client is in.
Sure.
Okay. Planning Board special permit for a transfer station is granted as part of this application. Applicant agrees to upgrade the existing odor control system pursuant to the proposal prepared by Aerator Odor Control dated October 20th, 2023, and absorb zip doors on the existing building pursuant to the proposal prepared by United Steel Products dated October 20th, 23, prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. Your client has agreed to that.
That's correct.
And that covenant is meant to address the odor situation.
That's correct.
And additionally, the proposed change of zone that's before us tonight is really to legalize what the applicant is currently doing at the business.
No,
Nothing is going to change.
what's happening is permitted and has been there for, my understanding is 30+ years. This is an additional lot with an additional building that will house some repair and then the administrative part of that business.
And then I just had one more question from the department, if I could. Sean, we've heard this argument before in other change of zone applications, that if we approve this, perhaps other parcels adjacent to it could have some precedential impact. And we've addressed those always by saying this has no precedential impact on any other adjacent lots at all.
Yeah, we take all applications on a case-by-case basis. In this specific case, the master plan does say it's acceptable if the development, and this is unique to the site plan, complies with the development standards, which is parking and landscaping. This complies. So you don't want it to turn into the area that gentleman mentioned.
I guess the point I'm making is people often appear before our zoning board and talk about precedent on the block as it relates to variances, a very different application.
Correct.
And a very different board. This is a change of zone hearing before the town board. There's no precedential impact of one lot compared to an adjacent lot, as one could argue before the zoning board when one was seeking a variance.
It's a very different test. That is correct.
Thank you very much for that clarification. I'm sorry, no. A for effort. No other questions or comments. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to close the hearing, accept the negative deck and approve the change.
The motion, is there a second? Motion by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Lorenzo. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Okay, we will move now to the next item on the agenda. 5426, above all storefronts. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the hearing notice.
Thank you. Hearing number 2, TC 5426, above all storefronts. Applicant requests a change of zone from Business 1 to Industrial 1 in order to construct a warehouse. Buffer relaxation is requested as part of these application. The environmental impacts will be assessed on this property located in the Central Islip School District on the south side of Motor Parkway, approximately 449 feet east of Wheeler Road, Central Islip, New York. Islip Town Board, Olga Murray, Town Clerk.
Thank you. You may begin.
Sure. Good evening, Supervisor Carpenter and members of the board. My name is Mel Gonzalez, MIG Architect, LLC, 200 Corporate Plaza, Suite A102, Alania, New York, 11749. I'm here on behalf of Above All Storefronts. We had been before the planning board for an approval, and we obtained an approval for the project. At that time, there were some questions regarding some screening on the south side of the property, which is adjacent to a cemetery, which is owned by the Rockville Center Diocese. And since then, we have been back and forth with the planning department, with Sean Colgan and his staff, to address any sort of concerns that the diocese had. And in order to address those concerns, we provided a sawtooth pattern of green giants at 10 to 12 feet in height, which grow at a rate of roughly about 2 to 4 feet per year. And it will give the cemetery a sufficient amount of screening in addition to some of the existing deciduous trees that are there in the property. Joe Marks from the engineering firm as a rendering of the rear of the property as we see it when it's going to be developed. And as you can see, we provide a substantial amount of screening for the cemetery. And the second rendering, which is the front of the building, is a look of what it's going to look like on a street front. Right now, it's a vacant piece of property, heavily wooded. But my client has a business on Gilpan right now, and he wants to stay in the community. He wants to stay with the property in Islip. The current facility that he has is in Patchogue. He's looking to relocate that to this facility so that he can maintain a close proximity to his current building. I do have photographs of some of the postings. I don't know if I have to submit those tonight. We submitted all the affidavits. So really I don't think there's anything else that we need to address besides what I've just mentioned.
Thank you. Officer, would you just get those photographs, please, and give them to the clerk? Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant at this point? Okay. There are no questions from the audience. If you filled out a card to speak, you'll be called when we get to the hearing point. Anything for the applicant at this point from the board? Okay, let us hear now from the department, please.
Thank you. As stated, the application proposes the development of vacant commercially zoned site for a small-scale manufacturing facility. There are industrial uses to the east, and there is a landscape median on the north side of Motor Parkway. The small size of the building and the site should help mitigate, concerns over the site's proximity to residences or concerns over how intense it could be, as compared to a much larger warehouse operation. So we think we adequately addressed the concerns of the cemetery as well as the planning board. I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay. Any questions for the department at this point? All right, we'll go to the cards. We have a number of cards. The first speaker, Edith Tackenberg. And just to remind everyone, you have 3 minutes to state your concerns or comments.
Thank you.
You're
We live
welcome.
across the street from that. I wanted to know if it's going to be manufacturing or just a warehouse? Do I ask that ahead of time?
Or you put your comments and questions on the record and the applicant will come back to address whatever concerns you have.
Okay, and I wanted to know about the hours of operation. And then we also have a green belt between our property, which is on Ridge Road. There's like a green belt to Motor Parkway. And I wanted to know if the town would be able to, or the company, maybe put some more bushes or trees in that green belt so that as we look across the street, we don't see the building as it is right now. It's all green right now. So if we could put something in there to cut down on the trucks coming in and the more traffic there, if they could put some bushes in that green belt. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Richard Bye, B-I-E.
Good evening. I represent Catholic Cemeteries Long Island, who manages the St. John of God Cemetery as well as Queen of All Saints Cemetery, which is adjacent to that property. I showed up at the hearing back in June, opposed the variance request to relax the rear yard setback to 16 feet. I'm still in opposition to that because St. John of God Cemetery has been there for over 100 years. This close proximity to that cemetery will affect the serenity of the cemetery. It looks like on the west side of the property where they're proposing the building will be the active loading bay for the building, which will be directly adjacent to and very close to cemetery plots with a 16-foot setback. So I'm just voicing my opposition to that.
Thank you. Okay, there are no other speakers, so if the applicant would like to come up and address the issues of hours of operation, the suggestion of planting some more trees, and the 16-foot setback.
Yes, how you doing? My name is John Cashel. I'm the president of Above All Storefronts. Hours of operation are 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. Saturdays are 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's considered a light manufacturing for what we fabricate. We're currently on 50 Gilpin Avenue in Hauppauge, and we fabricate light industrial aluminum composite panels. So what that means as far as fabrication is multiple CNC type machines with light fabrication equipment, screw guns, no exhaust type system, nothing that's going to affect the outside noise. I'm casual. See you later.
And then to the suggestion of more plants or shrubs or trees to be planted to kind of screen it a little bit.
Are you referring to across the street? That's the green belt that you're
Yes.
referring to?
Greenbelt.
Yeah, John is open to helping the community and addressing that, and we can coordinate with the planning department to provide the sufficient planting that the neighbor has requested.
Okay.
Mel, real
like
quick
to-
question for you,
Let
Mel.
him finish.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'd like to address the attorney for the diocese. In the previous application, we had requested a 16-foot setback on the south property line
Mhm.
adjacent to the cemetery. We took his request under consideration, and we've increased the setback to 25 feet. So we've addressed it and created more of a buffer and some additional plantings.
So the concern of it being a 16-foot setback is not accurate. Rather, now it's going to be 25 feet.
That is correct.
Councilman?
Mel, over during COVID, the town approved appendix for different plantings that are pollinating friendly.
Right.
Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
That would be nice across the street if we could utilize that for the green belt.
I would agree with that, definitely.
Thank you, Mel.
Okay,
His
are
name's
there
Gonzalez,
any other questions or comments
Gonzalez.
for the applicant? I would just like to ask Sean to come up and put on the record the request that was made of the neighbor about the plantings. What I heard was a commitment that that would happen working with the department. So I just want that
Yes, so-
reiterated and put on the record.
We will add that to the covenants under the site plan section that will coordinate, at least in that area where the development is to occur, and there'll be some vacant areas, just to be clear. We'll try to spot plant and infill appropriate species. Like the board's where we have a landscape
In that
architect on
Greenbelt
staff.
area.
In the Greenbelt area, and we'll see if we can fit in there. I don't know that off the top of my head, but we'll investigate it.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Sure.
On,
Councilman?
on the document that we have here, it indicates that the hours of operation are from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I just heard the representative indicating that it's from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So I would like to make sure that we include that on the covenants, please.
This board is inclined to change that? Yes, we will follow through on that recommendation.
Thank you.
When I was addressing the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. would be the fabrication. So I had people in the buildings in the office area. That's the only time, like 5 a.m.
What about the, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
what about the loading docks? Would those be operational till 9 p.m. or
No,
6?
no, they were not.
Councilman? You're
Yeah,
good? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the public hearing, issue a negative declaration, and approve the resolution.
Thank you. Motion by Councilman O'Connor, second by Councilman Guadron. All those in favor? Opposed? Approved. Thank you. Our third application this evening is TC 5429, Evan Crandall. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the hearing notice.
Thank you. Hearing number 3, TC 5429, Evan Crandall. Applicant requests modifications of covenants and restrictions associated with TC 4470 in order to allow a fitness center, retail market, meeting room, and outdoor amenities as accessory uses to a hotel for the exclusive use of hotel guests. The environmental impacts will also be assessed on this property located in the Hopog School District on the south side of Veterans Memorial Highway, 1,164 feet west of Lincoln Boulevard in Hopog, Town of Islip, Suffolk County, New York. Islip Town Board, Olga Murray, Town Clerk.
Good evening, Supervisor and council members and planning staff, Sean, Town Clerk as well. Very simply, this is something that kind of got caught up. The new owners bought the property in 2001. It's a Marriott Residence Inn, and there were certain covenants and restrictions that were put on it. I can't really speculate as to why they were put on it. My guess is that it was a bigger, they didn't want a big conference operation happening in that location. It's always been a Marriott Residence Inn, 100 rooms. And what we've asked and worked with the planning department for is to change the covenant and restrictions to allow for a small gym. Marjorie Monty is here from the property if you have any questions about specifically how the property operates. But small gym is 3 treadmills. There's a pool on the indoors. There's we will allow for the work with the planning department. There will be outdoor fire pits within the courtyard. The retail that was mentioned in there, that's just simply so that they can have a kiosk where guests can buy toothbrush, toothpaste, microwave type meals that they bring up to the room, and then also would allow for beer and wine to be used by the guests on the premises as well. Worked great with the planning staff, and you have their recommendations there. Actually, I believe Mr. Colgan wrote those up, and we're happy with them, and just like to answer any questions that you have, but we just want to operate the hotel as a normal hotel would be operated in that location.
Would you please give us your appearance?
I'm sorry, Mike Rallier. I'm with the Office of Schenker, Russo and Clark. We are a law firm representing KKR Properties and the applicant.
How long has the hotel been there?
Well, the original T's and C's were put in, or I'm sorry, the restriction and covenants were done in 1999. And then we closed on this property in the end of 2021. So, and there's a lot of these things have been operating like that.
Mhm.
People just didn't realize that there was the restriction on a gym. It's not a large gym. It's just a room with 3 treadmills in it. So as we went through, we were hired to do due diligence, some of the due diligence on the property, and we found that there was small things that just need to be corrected for the new owner.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions for the applicant at this point?
No.
All right, thank you. Sean, if you would.
Again, as you heard, this application would permit the existing hotel to house customary modern-day amenities. It's the staff's opinion that these are essential for a successful hotel operation in today's age. We're supportive of the changes to the covenants. And just for the record, the hotel received the certificate of occupancy back in 2002. No complaints.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, we have no one who has signed up to speak on this application, so then I will entertain a motion.
Motion to close the public hearing, adopt negative declaration, and approve the change of covenant.
Thank you, Councilman Guadron. Made the motion, second by Councilman Lorenzo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. Thank you. Our fourth application this evening is TC 5430, Transform Bohemia NY LLC. And, sir, you may begin.
Good evening, Supervisor Carpenter, members of the board. My name is J. Timothy Shea.
May I do the call of the calendar?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sure, I'm so sorry.
Okay, no
He's
problem.
very anxious.
Absolutely. TC 5430, Transform Bohemia, New York LLC, Inc. Applicant requests 2 town special board permits for fast food restaurants pursuant to section 68-302G and a minor subdivision. Site plan modifications may also be required of this application And the environmental impacts will also be assessed on this property located in the Sayville School District on the north side of Sunrise Highway, approximately 500 feet west of Johnson Avenue in Sayville, Town of Islip, Suffolk County, Islip Town Board, Olga Murray, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Olga. You may begin.
Yes, J. Timothy Shea Jr., Sir Tillman Ballin, 100 Motor Parkway, Hauppauge, New York, for the applicant. As the call of the meeting indicated, we are seeking special permits for 2 drive-through restaurants on property located on the north side of Sunrise Highway in Bohemia, which front upon the north side of Sunrise Highway between Johnson Avenue and Lakeland to the west. The overall site is 24.5 acres. I've handed up to the board an aerial with the site plan application details superimposed and 2 cut sheets of each of the individual pad site areas. There will be a proposed 3-lot subdivision to establish individual tax lots for each of the 2 pad sites. This site was previously occupied by Kmart, Office Max, Borders Books, and Sports Authority. All of those businesses went out of business. The site was purchased by Transform, and since that time that they took title, they have filled up all but about 8,000 square feet of the 233,000 square foot main building, which is located toward the north of the property, as you can see on the exhibit that we've provided. The tenants are Aldi, Floor Decor, At Home, and Joanne Fabric and Crafts, thus making a very big dent in filling all of the space, upgrading the site as you probably have seen if you've driven by it. And the application before the board is to allow for 2 pad sites along the street frontage furthest to the south, right along Sunrise Highway. In describing the area, there are 2 commercial properties, one to the east and one to the west. And you can see on the aerial that there is a thin black line that delineates the actual site in question. The site to the east is a couple of large buildings, all kind of retail, restaurant type uses. And to the west or the left-hand side of your the diagram, you'll see there is the Burger King and another retail center, large building. There are residences to the north of our site. We have been cognizant of that and designed the site with the uses to the furthest to the south. We have also been working with the planning department and Sean with regard to the drive-throughs. We are providing 38 queue stalls for the Chick-fil-A, which is proposed on the left-hand side, which is well more than what would be needed, but just to be safe. And I believe it's 15 on the parcel to the east, which is proposed to be a Taco Bell. We also propose a number of landscaping improvements, both in the street frontage, as you can see from the cutouts, bringing in new street frontage. There will be limited access to the street frontage. The main access in and out of each of the 2 pad sites is actually through the shopping center. So there will not be any direct access from the roads into the sites, other than there's on the left-hand side of the Chick-fil-A, there's an ability to get in and out off of Sunrise, the North Service Road. But that is furthest away from the drive-through queue, which is the furthest to the right of that site. In short, we ask that the board grant our application. I would note one other further thing. You'll see a green strip at the top of the site plan. That green strip is an area that is going to be revegetated with landscaping to further insulate the residential neighbors further to the north. That'll be 25 feet in width. Currently, that is parking stalls and about a 7-foot landscape island. So we're really tripling the size of the landscape island from what it is now, from the landscape
areas. Should also be noted, although it doesn't appear on the aerial, that further to the north of our property line, there's actually a paper road, 25 feet in length, which is not going to be developed. So there's a 50-foot vegetated permanent buffer essentially between the commercial center and the residents to the north. Would like to add one further thing. At the first planning board hearing, there was a number of complaints of people loitering and cars in the area coming in at night. The applicant immediately hired a security firm. They have been in place since that time, and we have heard of no further complaints with regard to that. I don't believe the planning department has had any complaints. So you understand that this is a Class A tenancy. They're trying to be very cognizant to their residential neighbors to the north, and we would hope that you would grant the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there plan or commitment that that security will stay in place going forward?
That is staying in place, yes.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant at this point?
I have a question.
Yes.
So you stated the paper road up to the north, but there is a road that comes in from Lakeland Avenue.
No, there is an existing road driveway that's been there since the 70s when it was first built. So what we've done is we have to keep that driveway access. There will be 25 feet along that access. The area that was a major concern for the planning department and for the residential neighbors was the parking area that people were hanging out at, which is where we're going to do the replanting. And that was
In the rear of the old Kmart, you saying?
yeah, behind the old Kmart. You'll see that green strip on the aerial.
Yeah, I grew up
That's where
right
it's-
here. I know this area very well.
Yeah.
My concern is that the Chick-fil-A and the Taco Bell, you say all the access is from the parking lot area. Right now, that building, the commercial building, as you stated, is not, it's mostly vacant, I would have to say, right? Is that correct?
No, the commercial building is almost fully occupied at this time.
Almost fully occupied right now?
There's a 8,000 square foot area that is not occupied. The tenancies are Aldi.
Right.
Floor and Decor, At Home, and Joanne Fabric.
Right, so with this queue for Chick-fil-A, I've never been to Chick-fil-A, to be honest with you, but I hear that it's well-liked and busy at times. My concern is that with it in from the parking lot and this being fully occupied almost, or pretty much 8% fully occupied, that's gonna be a disaster in that parking lot.
Well, to be honest, I think they're overqueued. I did the Chick-fil-A in Port Jefferson Station, and there was a very large queue. The driveway at queue was about 22, 23 cars, and then they had some extra area that could fit up to 30, 32, 33 cars. In fact, even further. When it first opened, they were at like the 32, 33. But I go there on a regular basis, and now pretty much every time you go, it's a queue of no more than 20 cars, all within the queue. So you would expect it early on, they might fill that 38 stall queue, but after people get used to it, it does reduce. The novelty of the new thing coming in. Furthermore, we have made concessions with regard to the covenants, which require us to continue to work on the queue if there was ever a problem. I would also note, and since you haven't been there, that Chick-fil-A has a very unique drive-through experience. They actually have a number of servers out in the drive-through area. They have pads. I don't know if they're Chromebooks or iPads, but they come to you and they take your order to try and expedite everybody through. Then you go up and you drive through. So they usually have about 4 to 6 people outside, which further allows for an efficiency that moves everybody through.
May I?
Sure.
Yes. So, as the father of a 21-year-old daughter who's a Chick-fil-A frequent flyer and aficionado, I noticed you referenced the Port Jeff Station one, and that does not have any queuing problems. I'll agree with you. One in Comac had significant queuing problems.
They did.
In fact, when the Red Robin was there, the queue was cutting through the parking lot and cutting off the access to the Red Robin. And kudos to Chick-fil-A, because they came in and corrected the situation, corrected the queue, and as you say, brought people not only out into the parking lot to take the orders, but had people out there directing traffic to control the queue. So,
They're very
there was a real
cognizant.
issue at the Comac site.
And we were aware of that, and actually I drove by the Comac site today, and I did not see any issue whatsoever. I was not involved in that, but I did speak with the town of Smithtown. It was an issue previously. They redesigned the site, and the queue works perfectly now, or it seems to work very well.
And they did a good job staffing the parking lot to control the queue.
They are very cognizant of the customer experience. They want you to come out of the restaurant or the drive-through having a good experience, and they want to be very efficient. They know that people's time is very important, and they are constantly improving. And I've seen like little details in the drive-through over the years that have changed to make it a little bit more efficient.
I just want to make sure that if there is an issue with the queuing, it will be put in with planning, that it will be taken care of.
We do have a couple of different contingencies with regard to that in the covenants.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Sean? And also, if you could address Councilman Lorenzo's concerns about if there should be any queuing issues to develop. We have a mechanism in there to address it.
Sure. So as stated by the applicant, they're looking to add these two pad sites. As far as the shopping center is concerned, the areas to the south are fairly underutilized in terms of parking. And generally, the town has supported fast food restaurants in these types of shopping centers where they can be accommodated without impacting site circulation or off-site traffic. Again, that's not anticipated in this case. You can see on the site plan that they both sites exceed the town's minimum queuing requirements. With regards to the complaints heard at the planning board hearings, the applicant's correct. They have hired security service and agreed to increase the northern buffer to better mitigate the impacts of the shopping center. So we hope those will be positive in terms of reducing the number of complaints that were received by the residents to the north. With regards to the backup plan, yes, there's language in the drive-through queuing and as it pertains to Chick-fil-A. It's a very convoluted set of covenants. It's number 26. And if there are queuing failures or stacking shortfalls, the applicant is obligated to work with the town to address them. Mr. Shea also alluded to that the applicant, as well as Taco Bell, not just Chick-fil-A, has to provide the town with a queuing failure plan. And that's something they'll need to implement in case we are seeing those off-site impacts that could create a traffic and safety issue. But with regards to this setup, there's just so many cars. Might there be growing pains at the beginning? Possibly. We'll see if and when that happens. But there's just so much more queuing here than you'd see at any other fast food restaurant that we've approved before that it appears that Chick-fil-A is earnestly trying to address that issue so that it doesn't become an issue.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the department? Again, there are no speakers who've signed up on this particular application. So if there are no other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the public hearing, issue a negative declaration, and adopt the resolution as submitted to the board.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman O'Connor, second by Councilman Lorenzo. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. There are going to be a lot of happy Chick-fil-A aficionados. Oh, boy. Okay, our next application.
I have one. Can you keep one?
Our fifth and final application for the evening is TC 5431, Steel Campus LLC and Marcus ISP Holdings LLC as tenants in common. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the hearing notice.
Certainly. Tonight's last hearing, TC 5431, Steel Campus LLC and Marcus ISP Holdings LLC as tenants in common. Applicant requests a change of zone, PDD multifamily to PDD retail services PDD Office and PDD Senior Citizen, and from PDD Educational Campus to PDD Retail Services, and a modification of covenants and restrictions associated with TC 5363 in order to construct an additional 280 apartments for a total of 645 apartments on site, 81 senior citizen condominiums, a market, 2 medical offices, restaurants, and retail space. Site plan modifications may be required as this application, and the environmental impacts will also be assessed on this located on this property located on the east side of Carlton Avenue, approximately 1,200 feet north of Courthouse Drive, Central Islip, Suffolk County, New York. Islip Town Board, Olga Murray, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Olga. Sir, you may begin.
Good evening, Madam Supervisor, members of the board. For the applicant, Brian Kennedy, partner with the law firm of Forcelli, Deegan, Tirana, offices at 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard. Now, I understand that we have a crowded room this evening. I will do my best to keep this presentation as quick as possible, but this is a unique application. I will provide a brief history, and then you will hear testimony from Courtney Riley, David Wortman, and Aaron MacDay of VHB Engineering, who will take you through the site plan and discuss the environmental impacts and the traffic study conducted as part of this application. This application encompasses 2 parcels. The smaller parcel located at the northeast intersection of Carlton Avenue and Gullhaven Drive is currently occupied by a vacant chapel parcel. This site will be rezoned from the existing educational campus to Planned Development District Retail Services. Now, that site will house the newly renovated New York Institute of Technology free clinic that is located at 267 Carlton Avenue, in addition to a proposed retail market. Now, the larger parcel just south of Gullhaven was subject to a change of zone hearing before this board in 2021. That 83-acre site was rezoned from its prior zoning as educational campus to multifamily. That site will be broken up into 4 additional parcels and receive new zoning. Courtney will take you through that zoning classification as we move forward. But I just want to take the board back to 2017 when the applicants entered into contract to purchase this parcel from NYIT. They began their due diligence on redeveloping the former campus that had sat vacant after the college closed their operations. At that time, the applicants began an extensive community outreach, which they have continued to this day. Throughout that process, they took input from the planning department and members of this community to model their plan to something that worked for them and worked for the community as a whole. Now, the plan before you this evening is not the plan that was initially presented to the planning board back in September. At that hearing, on September 20th of this year, the proposed plan presented was significantly different than what is before the board this evening. Now, we received feedback from the civics, from the members of the community, and from the planning board. And in response to that, the applicant did what they have done throughout this process. They listened and they modified their plan. Now, the modifications that came as a result of those feedback included the addition of an extensive network of walking paths along Carlton Avenue that will allow pedestrian access and bicycle access to the retail portion of the site. The applicant added a new plaza between the NYIT facility and the proposed marketplace. They further reduced the footprint of the proposed medical office building to increase landscaping and adhere to the buffer requirements adjacent to the residential portion. Now, the plan before this board provides significantly more green space than what was previously proposed. Now, should this application be approved, Steel Equities and the Marcus Organization will continue their commitment to the Central Islip community. As part of this application, they'll be required to pay an approximately $950,000 mitigation fee. In addition to that fee, they have already committed to another $150,000 fee to help renovate the existing band shell and parkland adjacent to this property. Now, at this point, I'm going to ask Courtney to briefly take the board through the new structures and new zoning to be installed at this site.
Yes, Courtney Riley, 100 Motor Park. Good evening. So there were a couple of key components when we started this plan. We wanted to accomplish the community, connectivity, and sustainability. And through working with the planning department as well as the engineering department and the civics community, we really tried to enhance each and every one of those components from sustainability as well as how we get and manage the pedestrians through the site to create that live-work environment. And so I'm going to start at Site 1. That's the site all the way to the north. This is a change of zone from education to retail service. The first site, Site 1, is 4.04 acres. On the north side, it has 2 buildings. Building 1 is a 1-story building at 18,900 square feet with the potential use of a market. The second building is 13,900 square feet, inclusive of a basement, and this is an adaptive reuse of an existing chapel. This will be converted into the medical office for NYIT. There's a plaza between these 2 buildings, and the reason for that, again, is to try to create that walkability connectivity. We are meeting the buffers and have requested some reliefs from the planning board as far as a setback for our loading area. Additionally, the buildings is set back over 67 feet. And by doing this, we're able to create a building frontage along Carlton Avenue. We push everything back to the best of our ability while still providing parking. And this way, we are able to create along Carlton Avenue a view of not a sea of parking as you've seen in other places, but also beautiful building frontages. This site has 9 land bank stalls. The required parking is 178 stalls. We are proposing to build 170 and land banking the 9. The vehicle access will be from Gullhaven Drive as well as Robbins Road. And the loading will all be done from the rear on Robbins Road. So you could come in through Gullhaven, but the loading would come down through the back. And we are meeting and exceeding all landscape requirements on this site. Site 2 is converted. We are asking to change the zone from multifamily to retail service. Site 3 is approximately 3.78 acres and will have 3 buildings. Building 3, again, another adaptive reuse, keeping with the same theme that the Steel Equities and Marcus Organization has done throughout the site. It's the reuse of Robbins Hall, which is over 40,000 square feet, with the potential use of a brew house or entertainment facility. This building is existing and therefore does not meet the 150-foot setback and is set back at 83 feet. And in working with the planning department, we kept the same alignment for all the buildings. We've increased all the pedestrian access from Carlton Avenue into these buildings. The next 2 buildings is building 4 and 5, approximately 27,000 square feet of retail and 9,000 square foot of restaurants. When we look at the mix of this, we wanted to make sure that there's no big box uses. These are all going to be smaller retail, smaller uses, the hopes of some mom and pop shops that can then enter into these developments. The 2 buildings will have an outdoor pergola and an indoor and an outdoor patio connecting the 2 buildings together. The intentions, again, is to have this main drive on Robbins Road come from the back. So as people filter in, whether it be from Carlton or Gullhaven, that they would then filter down through the parking lot to the uses, and therefore not having a sea of parking again from Carlton Avenue. We're promoting the streetscape view of Carlton Avenue, as well as the pedestrian access from Carlton, as well as from the residences in Site 4. We have also increased the land bank parking and taken, the town standards require 102 parking spaces. We'll be land banking 79 stalls and constructing 136 stalls in accordance with direction and coordination with the planning department. Site 3 will be going from multifamily to office. This site is 3.78 acres. Building 6 is proposed to be a 3-story medical office building. This is one of the other changes that we had mentioned as far as from what the planning board saw to what you're seeing today. And the discussion was it was a 2-story building that spread out a lot more, had more parking and more surface area of impervious area. By making it a 3-story building, which will be approximately 40,000 square feet, we're now able to add and increase the landscaping. The town required parking spaces is 278 spaces, and we are proposing those 268 spaces, but only building 161. Therefore, over 107 spaces will be land bank, and this is in accordance with the CNRs that are proposed for the project. This helps us create more landscape area to the north, as well as to the east, and setting back the building over 162 feet. This building is also 145 feet from the existing residences, and there'll be landscaping between the 2 sub-districts. We have added pedestrian access from the residential community, as well as from Carlton Avenue, to add, again, the walkability of the site. Site 4 is multifamily and remains multifamily. There is no change in the zoning. However, just to note what it is, this is 62.16 acres. This site includes phase 1 with the adaptive reuse of many of the buildings, if not all. You'll see 2 darker brown buildings there that will be part of the phase 2 towards the north. We call them building 10 and 11, but you'll see the 2 darker brown buildings. And phase 1 had over 364 units. We are now proposing an additional 38 units within these existing buildings. So we have 2 more existing buildings that we're going to be rehabbing. An additional 243 units with 9 3-story, 27-unit buildings. Per the town standards, the town requires 1.75 parking spaces. For the entire Site 4, we're providing 1,137 parking spaces is required, and we have 1,460 parking spaces. So the reason for some of the additional parking in here was that we wanted to make sure that we could accommodate for some of the guests. And this way we have, whether it be off-street parking in front of the buildings, and we have a little bit more parking room besides just the 1.75 for the residences. There is no parking directly adjacent to the Deck Stadium. This is one of the things that we have removed. We, again, increased our pedestrian access, and we added emergency access between Site 4 and Site 5. This access will be through the existing, they will have access through, again, the existing entrances of Carlton Avenue, as well as Eastview Avenue, and will have an egress only onto Eastview Avenue as one of the new curb cuts. The amenities, which Steel Equities will go further through, has respite areas, dog parks, gazebos, pedestrian paths, clubhouses, and pools, which will be further discussed. This site has over 1 million square foot of landscaping, and we have taken upon to make sure that we've increased this landscaping as much as possible. Lastly, we have Site 4A. This is multifamily going to senior citizens sub-district. The site is 7.17 acres. It has 3 buildings that are 27 units per building and has a required parking of 162 parking spaces. We are providing 168 parking. It has a clubhouse of 2,500 square feet. And we have, again, this emergency access, as you can see, between the two sites, 4 and 4A. Additionally, as part of the comments from working with the planning board, we have added a left turn lane from Courthouse Drive to enter into Site 4A, and the main entrance will be off Courthouse Drive. This will also have amenities such as dog parks and picnic areas that would be provided to those residents. That concludes my presentation, and now I will bring up David Warren.
Hi, yes, my name is David Wortman, spelled Wortman. And I'm the Senior Environmental Manager for VHB with offices in Hauppauge, New York. Good evening, Madam Supervisor, members of the board. VHB was retained by the applicant to review the proposed development from an environmental and land use planning perspective. We prepared an environmental assessment form and an expanded environmental assessment report as part of the SECRA environmental review of the project. To perform this work, we began with a review of the SECRA history of the property. As this board is presumably very familiar, the future of the site and the overall former State Psychiatric Center campus has been the subject of much study and planning over the years. The most recent update to the town's master plan, adopted in 2005, continued to contemplate an NYIT higher education campus at the site. And that 2005 master plan update underwent its own environmental review pursuant to SECRA. The reason that I mentioned the SECRA history of the site is because a central component of that expanded EA report that was submitted for your consideration is a detailed analysis of the current proposed action with this board's prior SECRA finding statement. For those key environmental topics where the proposed action and its mix of uses would have different impacts than those already analyzed and accepted by the town, the expanded EA included a detailed site-specific analysis to allow for an understanding of the potential impacts. In particular, the expanded EA analyzed land use and zoning, comprehensive plan consistency, impacts to water resources, including groundwater and stormwater runoff, traffic and transportation, which my colleague will speak to in a moment. And it also included analyses of impacts on community facilities and services, such as impacts on the local school district. A quick note on that. There's comprehensive data available nowadays, including via a report by Stony Brook University's Real Estate Institute, which evaluates recent multifamily developments of similar scale to what's proposed here. That study conservatively averages 1 school-age children per every 11 units. There are currently 136 occupied units within phase 1 of this development. And among those units, only 4 school-age children reside at the site, which reflects approximately 1 school children per every 34 units. This characteristic of extremely low generation of school children is most likely attributable to the bedroom mix of the development, which substantially favors studio and 1-bedroom units, which are just not attractive to households with children, thus reducing the potential impact on the local district. Also included in the expanded EA is a detailed discussion of the purpose, need, and benefits of the project. Section 2.3 of the report elaborates upon those benefits, but key among those is the job generation that would result from both the construction phase and the operational phase of the development. Construction phase job generation is estimated on the range of 175 to 275 jobs. During the operational phase, over 200 jobs are expected to continue to be provided by the development once it's open. Various other secondary economic impacts would result. These are direct benefits. I welcome you to, of course, review the detailed study that's before you, but in closing, I would just like to note that based on the detailed analyses presented in the EAF and the expanded EA report, the proposed action is consistent with the prior finding statement to the extent possible, and where it would have different impacts than those that were already evaluated, they've been minimized and would not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Madam Supervisor, at this point, we're going to ask Aaron McTay of VHB Engineering to speak briefly to the traffic impacts of this proposed development.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Supervisor and members of the board. My name is Aaron McTay, and I am a project manager with the transportation team at VHB's Long Island office at 100 Motor Parkway in Hauppauge, New York. VHB has performed a detailed and comprehensive traffic impact study to evaluate the potential impacts to transportation infrastructure associated with the proposed project. The TIS was performed in accordance with standard traffic engineering practices and procedures and submitted and reviewed by the town's professional transportation consultant who represents a third party. That study concluded that the proposed development would not have a significant impact on area traffic conditions with the implementation of certain mitigation measures, which I'll discuss shortly. With regard to the site and site access, the property is primarily fronted to the west on Carlton Avenue and to the east on Eastview Drive. While Ms. Riley spoke about all the secondary and tertiary points of access, the primary access to the development is provided from these two roadways. In fact, it should be noted that the access to portions of the development, by and large, is the benefit of utilizing improvements that were associated with phase one of the development. This includes the rebuilt traffic signal at Carlton Avenue and South Research Place, the roundabout on Eastview Drive, and the related pedestrian and traffic safety improvements at each of those locations and on and around the property frontage. With regard to traffic generation, the traffic study predicted the new level of activity in accordance with industry standard practices, utilizing data enumerated in the latest publications from ITE. In doing so, we made some conservative assumptions regarding the potential internal interaction of traffic between the various proposed uses, and ultimately that results in an estimate of a maximum of approximately 650 new trips on the roadway during the single peak hour. This magnitude of new trips was superimposed upon the underlying condition, again, in accordance with standard practice. And we created a model in order to determine the impact to traffic operations that result from the proposed project. With regard to the potential impacts that we found from that analysis, the detailed analysis shows that by and large, the existing transportation-related infrastructure on Carlton Avenue is adequate to receive the newly generated traffic. This is largely due to the implementation of the improvements associated with phase one. Now, the analysis did show that there are some impacts which occur at certain intersections along Eastview Drive that would cause us to recommend some mitigation. For the most part, we demonstrated that small optimizations in signal timing would allow any impacts to be ameliorated. But the only exception was the intersection of Eastview Drive and Sunburst Avenue, which showed significant delays, particularly for the eastbound approach in the future condition. In order to address these impacts, the TIS demonstrated that a potential traffic signal at this location would mitigate the condition and allow the intersection to operate at acceptable levels of service in the future condition. And based on this, with the implementation of these measures, including that traffic signal, it can be said that the project would not result in any significant impact to area traffic conditions. It is also further noted that the town's third-party traffic consultant reviewed our document and agreed with that conclusion. On top of those measures that are specifically mentioned in the TIS, there have also been several improvements which would be proposed at the direction of the Department of Public Works, related, and I think those are related specifically to the roundabout that's constructed for phase one on Eastview Drive. This includes retro-reflective chevrons around the circle for north and southbound traffic, north and southbound roundabout ahead advisory signage, and hardwired blinking pedestrian signs. Furthermore, as necessary, speed limit signs would be replaced when this location is ultimately turned over to the town. These such improvements are clearly aimed at increasing the level of safety throughout the roundabout, and the developer is more than happy to facilitate them as it aims toward that goal. Finally, as a part of the traffic study, a review of area crash history was also conducted, and it was determined that there were no unusual crash patterns or incidents that were found to occur. With the implementation of a well-designed access plan, as well as the construction of the various improvements that I just highlighted, in order to increase the level of safety, it would not be expected for this project to unduly increase the rate of crash experience within the study area. So in closing, based on our detailed study, it is my professional opinion that the approval and operation of the site as proposed will not result in any significant negative impacts on traffic with the implementation of the aforementioned mitigation. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our last speaker this evening, Madam Supervisor, will be Russ Moore of Steel Equities.
Thank you. Russell Moore, MOHR, 999 South Oyster Bay Road, Bethpage, New York. Thank you, Madam Supervisor and members of the board. This application represents the true vision of a smart growth community, which will continue the redevelopment and preservation of the 87-acre property that was formerly occupied by New York State Psychiatric Center, as well as the New York Institute of Technology. Prior to Steel Equities and the Marcus Organization taking ownership, this property had been off the tax rolls and was slowly abandoned in a state of disrepair, and over the years created a blight in Central Islip. I can assure you that the challenges of the adaptive reuse of these buildings, the underground tunnels, the general difficulties while attempting to renovate this project has far exceeded our original financial projections. The increased demand on Long Island for a larger supply of multifamily rental housing, additional home ownership, opportunities for persons 55 or older, together with the mixed use for retail and service, medical, in Central Islip and the surrounding communities, make this project a pinnacle for smart growth. It will create a sustainable, pedestrian-friendly community for people to live, work, and play. This plan, as proposed, will continue the redevelopment of the Carlton Avenue corridor, finally removing this blight from the former state-owned property and putting the property back on the tax rolls. The Belmont at Eastview has created an economical rental option for persons of all ages and is focused on providing housing options for first responders, where we offer a 10% discount off of the advertised base rents. Of the first 136 residents occupied, we have over 50% of the units that have been rented to first responders. This is firefighters, emergency service workers, police officers, nurses, sheriffs, etc. It's a great testament to what we're doing here, as well as a mix of Touro law students who attend the adjacent university. In addition, the unit mix, as David said earlier, our rental community is approximately 75% studios and one bedrooms, which has directly impacted the number of children that reside there. The demand for studio and one bedrooms has been feverish and proved strong that the need on Long Island is really required to provide these type of housing options for younger demographics. We opened our doors in June of 23, and occupancy began in August. We've leased over 150 apartments. It's important to note that the age demographics of these persons are 25 to 45 years old. The data loudly demonstrates the need to provide a range of housing types for the younger generation to assist in keeping them here on Long Island and keeping out as opportunities for persons at or below 80% of the area median income. 10% of the units will be provided as affordable housing as per the planned development district and in accordance with the Town of Islip Code. 65 of the units will be provided in the proposed rental community, and 9 units will be provided in the for sale community of 55 and older. It should be noted that the 2023 affordable rental rates, as approved by HUD and the Long Island Partnership, and in cooperation with the program guidelines as set forth by the Town of Islip, for studios 1 and 2 bedrooms are approximately within $200 per month differential. In an effort to further amplify the affordability of both our affordable units and our market rate units, the Belmont has included multiple services in our base rent, where our competitors charge these additional fees. This is an added value of approximately $150 per month to each resident included in their rent. The lottery has been conducted by the Long Island Housing Partnership for the Phase 1 development, and the same format will be followed for the Phase 2 development if approved, under both the Town Affordable Guidelines and the Long Island Housing Partnership Guidelines. The residential community amenities to Belmont feature an 18,000 square foot clubhouse, pool deck, fire pits, community gardens, tranquil preserved fish pond, basketball, tennis, pickleball courts, miles of walking trails, bike paths, open green spaces, picnic and barbecue areas, and dog parks throughout. Many of our current residents are using those to date. We anticipate the clubhouse facility to be completed by June of '24, and we're looking forward to the same. The plan before you this evening will result in the continuation of these walking trails, bike paths, dog parks, rec areas, as well as a clubhouse for the proposed 55 or older community. The Belmont and Eastview residences will incorporate green building technologies featuring Energy Star appliances, utility certified light fixtures, advanced technology packages to remotely monitor HVAC and access controls, with a focus on construction and site sustainability, minimizing our carbon footprint. Lastly, I would like to thank the gentlemen and ladies here tonight. We have many of our local contractors and suppliers in the room this evening. And I just wanted to note for the record, our current daily project reports demonstrate that we have over 200 persons working per day on this project. That is real jobs. We truly appreciate the loyalty and dedication of our subcontractors and suppliers, for without these men and women, the project would not be built and the opportunity created for the residents of Islip and beyond. Thank you for the town board for this opportunity to present. And on behalf of Steel Equities and the Marcus Organization, we are vested in this community and we're looking forward to bringing this master plan development to fruition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Supervisor, that concludes our presentation. We'll await public comment.
All right, and before we go to the department, does anyone have any questions at this point?
I do.
Councilman O'Connor.
Mr. Moore just addressed that over 150 apartments are leased to date. The projected proposal calls for a total of 650, with 10% or 65 being affordable as defined by our code, and 80% market rate and all of those things that he had talked about. Of the 150 apartments rented to date, how many of them are affordable?
The affordable units will come online. The affordable units will come online December 1st. We're starting to bring in the lottery applicants. The lottery was conducted last month by Long Island Housing Partnership, and letters are going out to invite the applicants in based on the availability.
That's the only question I have for the applicant at this time. I have
Thank
some
you.
questions for the department.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant at this point? Thank you. Sean, if you would.
Sure. I'll be brief. This application continues the ongoing revitalization and adaptive reuse of the historic Central Islip Psychiatric Hospital buildings, including Robbins Hall. As you've heard, it will provide for needed housing and additional services to accommodate the growth we've seen in this area, including a new medical center. Just as a matter of housekeeping, the board is aware that in accordance with SECRA, the board is required to declare itself lead agency prior to adopting a negative declaration, and again, prior to adopting a decision if one is made tonight. So that being said, given the overlap of the benefits that this application will have towards the master plan and continued revitalization efforts of Central Islip as well as downtown, the department is in support of this application.
Thank you. Councilman O'Connor, you indicated you had some comments for
I
the
don't know if
department.
anybody else has any questions. Sean, thank you for providing us with the Suffolk County Planning Commission resolution approving the change of zone. At paragraph 4, they say 20% of the units proposed should be set aside for affordable housing purposes. Every attempt should be made when marketing workforce units to include individuals and their families with disability to promote independence and inclusive communities. And yet the covenants and restrictions that I'm seeing call for 10%. So we're not bound by the Suffolk County Planning Commission's recommendations in their approval. Is that right?
That's correct. There's a difference between the recommendations as conditions. There are no conditions on this application by the county.
We're bound by the town code, which calls for 10%.
That is correct.
I'd just like to applaud the Planning Commission for encouraging making the affordable housing in our communities accessible to those with disabilities. I find that refreshing, and I'm happy to see it. Perhaps maybe the applicant can address that later if they have any plans for that.
Do you recall I was on the Zoom when they drew the names for the affordable? how many affordable units were drawn that day? Does anybody remember?
How many names?
Yeah,
It was a total of 800 applicants.
no, but how many did we actually identify were pulled? 100, okay. Okay, we have a number of cards that have been filled out, so, why don't we go to those, and then if any other questions or comments come up, we can hear them. Again, to remind everyone, there are a lot of speakers here, so please, you're gonna keep to the 3 minutes. And if anyone's come up and said what you've already said, try to limit the comments. The first speaker, Michelle Mast.
Good evening. My name's Michelle Mast. I've been an ISIL resident for the past 35 years. My husband and I raised 3 children in East Islip. I'm a registered nurse for 34 years and have been working in the community as a visiting nurse, visiting patients in their home for 24 years. I have chosen to live at Belmont at Eastview after selling my home in East Islip. I am just so impressed with what they have done with the property, the buildings. They've kept the integrity of buildings, but yet made it all very smart energy. And they do give the first responders and nurses, they recognize us and give us 10% discount every month, the length of your lease. They also are always giving back to the community, including a fall festival, the upcoming winter festival this Sunday, which is all free and open to everybody in the community. There's vendors, there's hot chocolate, there was pumpkins at the fall festival. They have revitalized and made a beautiful community where we all know has been an eyesore for many, many years. I urge you to support, and I support phase 2 of the redevelopment to create more jobs and bring more industry to an area of our community that has lacked so much for so long. It can only enhance and enrich this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea Gerard.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Gerard. I currently live in Islip Landing, which is the other community in between Foxgate and the Courthouse Commons. I've lived in Islip Landing now over 10 years as a homeowner. Our community actually borders both sides of Eastview. One side is 55 and older, and the other side is mixed families, which also includes our clubhouse. So we only have one way in and one way out for both sides. I previously made these comments at the previous meeting. Again, we have no choice but to go out on Eastview. The traffic already is bad. And many times in the evening or the afternoon, it takes a while to even exit out. Much less, there's no crosswalk in between our communities at all. So for those during the summertime, if they want to come over to use the pool, many of the older, community members, they just get in their car and drive over. There's no way they're going to walk across the street, or if they're chancing it. I have myself in the past have kids want to come over. Like I've seen kids standing there on the corner, waiting to cross the street. Or anyone else, see on the corner waiting across the street, and they give up. It's very dangerous, and that's now. What's going to happen when they add more and more cars to the mix there? We had a little taste of it with the construction that was on Carlton. Traffic was diverted down, I believe, Sunburst and down Gullhaven. That was amazing to actually see how much more, and that was just for a short amount of hours. Something has to be done. That's what I'm asking for. Obviously, I have nothing against the new community. Great. But don't forget that we're the community that has been there now And we're homeowners that live there in Islip Landing. And what is going to happen to our community in between all this development? Something has to be done. Something has to be upgraded on Eastview as far as the traffic concerns there. Again, it's going to be great to have a little grocery store. We need that in the area, retail space. Great. But now you have to upgrade the infrastructure that is there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Joanna Kucky, I'm sorry. Okay. Joseph Vereline.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joseph Vereline. I am the Second Assistant Chief of the Central Islip Fire Department. I'm here representing the Central Islip Fire Department tonight. The Fire Department has had the opportunity to review and propose the proposed plans that Sale Equity has to future development of the hospital grounds, the old hospital grounds, as I call it, born and raised in Central Islip. I know the grounds very well. I grew up there playing in them. As the Second Assistant Chief of the Department, I'm responsible for the recruitment and retention of new members coming into the department. Steel Equity has been a great supporter of this. They have displayed signs for me. They have displayed recruitment for me. And I'm hoping that their continued support will help us bring in new members to our department. New membership, right now, our department, we're about 48 members short. And we could use their support, and they have been great support to us at this point right now. So therefore, the Central Islip Fire Department is actively supporting their endeavor to develop the property. And also, just to note, as a community member that was born and raised in Central Islip, I personally support this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for coming down. I'm sure they appreciate that. And I'm certain the 10% discount to EMS personnel and healthcare workers, et cetera, will help in your recruitment.
I have one member living in the development right now, so nice.
At a discount. Jeanette Alvarez. Jeanette Alvarez.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Alvarez, and I'm a resident of the Islip community. I grew up in Central Islip, graduated in '87 from Central Islip High School. I'm here to support the new development for the Vermont at Eastview. I think it's great that they are doing this. As a Latin person, they are creating so many jobs and opportunities for a lot of people there. Residents are very happy about it, and also, to see this building that was nothing there, basically, to come alive, in our town is actually wonderful. So I'm here to support them, and, I hope that you guys approve what they're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Martha, with an S.
Good evening, Martha Sherry, 446 Saxton Court, Central Islip. I think this is a beautiful development also, but these people do not live in our area. I'll give you a for instance, they put up a roundabout. Looks beautiful. People run right through it. The other day they knocked down the lamppost. The signs are down. Nobody knows what a speed limit is on Eastview. It's ridiculous. And now, if I'm understanding correctly from the young lady that spoke, they want to put an alternate exit out of the community onto Eastview. That would be terrible. Do you know how many driveways are going in and out of Eastview in the 1.5 miles that it encompasses? It's terrible. And we can't even get the police department to come and do anything about it. I call all the time. So if you could possibly have your safety department put some pressure on the police department to enforce the speed limit, it would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. And we certainly will reach out to the precinct on that. Perhaps we can put one of those speed indicators up there. That usually does help slow down the traffic, but
There's one there now.
yeah. But the biggest deterrent is enforcement. When people start getting tickets, they'll know to slow down. Danielle Hislop?
Sorry, I'm short. I'm Danielle Hislop. While I am on the HOA board at Courthouse Commons, I am here as a resident of the complex. First, I would like to commend the developers on the work they have already completed, as it is a much-needed improvement to that part of Carlton Avenue. However, I do not believe the additional residential buildings will benefit our community. My main concern is the same as so many others: traffic. Data in any type of study, including traffic, can be spun to reflect the desired results. Anyone who has driven on Carlton or Lowell during rush hour already knows the frustration of sitting there for 10 minutes or more, waiting for the train gates to go up, and many times right back down before you can get through the intersection. The proposed final number of units is 647 apartments plus 81 condos. Even if only half of them have a second vehicle, which is being generous, that is 1,100 more cars in the area on a daily basis. And don't forget to add the employees and visitors at the shops and medical building. It does not take an engineering degree to conclude that increased number of cars in an area serviced by 1 and 2 lane roads is just not going to work. Aside from affecting nearby condo complexes, this increase of vehicles will have an impact on the residential streets off of Carlton and Lowell, the closer you get to East Suffolk Avenue, not just from people headed to the train station, but those who use Betts Highway, Nichols Road, and the LIE as well. The current traffic circle on Eastview is useless. My building is on the corner of Courthouse Drive and Eastview, which may as well be a motor speedway at this point, and that is a danger to pedestrians. There is already an apartment complex being built next to Toro, which will affect traffic going north and also heading south onto the southern state. Throw another 1,000 plus cars into the mix, and Courthouse Commons, which is prohibited to be a gated community, becomes an attractive cut-through for impatient drivers. In respect to more affordable housing for a younger generation of Long Islanders, it is a noble but flawed concept that sets itself up for high rates of resident turnover. As families begin to grow out of a studio or 1-bedroom apartment, or spending $3,000 a month on a 2-bedroom apartment with no equity is not so appealing, no matter how many dog parks and walking trails they have at their disposal. Unfortunately, our school district is ranked below average, which sends residents away once their children reach school age. I've seen this in my own complex. And what would motivate someone to push for improvement when they do not pay school taxes and therefore have no vested interest in how the money is spent to educate children of families who have put down roots in the community? I do feel the retail portion of the proposal would be an asset both financially and culturally, especially if it includes local businesses and medical offices that can be utilized by local residents, as well as bring in people from across the island as a desired entertainment destination. If there is an option where the zoning change could be approved for that section, I would support that. Thank you.
Thank you. David Bloom?
David Bloom, 38 Captain's Drive, Islip, New York. Good evening, Supervisor Carpenter, members of the board. I'm here this evening representing the Long Island Builders Institute, and I'd like to read a statement from our CEO, Michael Flory. Dear members of the board, I am writing on behalf of the Long Island Builders Institute, the largest home building and remodeling industry advocates in New York State, in order to express our support of Steel Equities and the Marcus Organization's Belmont at Eastview Development Project. I fully believe this project will not only contribute to the economic growth and beautification of the town of Islip, but will also address the pressing need for additional housing in our region. The Belmont at Eastview plan, as proposed, creates a smart growth development located on vacant land in central Islip. This plan aims to transform the site into a vibrant and welcoming space for young professionals, families, and seniors. With the board's approval of this plan, the forthcoming construction will breathe new life into the area by allowing for the development of a mixed-use space of housing, retail shops, marketplaces, and cafes, as well as a medical office facility. The development project will not only create hundreds of direct and indirect jobs for the area, but will also have a positive impact on the local economy. This project is a gateway project to service the population of Central Islip, meaning it will serve as a catalyst to spur smart growth and much-needed development for the area. Furthermore, it will serve as improving a large parcel, that has laid dormant and off the tax rolls for approximately a decade. Again, we support this project and urge the board to move forward to continue the redevelopment of the Carlton area corridor in Central Islip. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and I trust that you will make a decision that upholds the best interests of the residents of the town of Islip. Thank you. Sincerely, Michael Florio, CEO, Long Island Builders Institute.
Thank you, sir.
I also have a couple of letters from some of our members and neighbors I'd like to present.
Certainly. If you could take that and submit it to the clerk. Appreciate that. Next speaker, Debbie Kavanaugh.
Good evening, Debbie Kavanaugh, 21 Walnut Street. I'm here in support of the Belmont project moving forward. They have been very transparent with the community. They meet with us on a regular basis. They keep us informed about what's going on. I know they said that they're going to put a traffic light on Eastview to help with the traffic problem. My only concern is where the traffic light goes, because it needs to go down towards Islip Landings so that the seniors can cross safely. Other than that, I am in total support of the project. They do meet with us, like I said, on a regular basis. I know we met Monday night prior to this meeting. We met with my board. We had an hour and a half Zoom meeting with them. They keep in contact with us, so I'm definitely in favor of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there are no other cards that have been filled out, so we will go back to the developer and the department if anyone has any questions or comments at this point. The thing that was brought up, and certainly isn't your issue, but I really think it probably should have been addressed when Islip Landing was constructed, that if they had a development that was on two sides of the road, and amenities on one side for both sides of the complexes, that there should have been some sort of, blind crosswalk and signalization or something going there, and we can have our traffic study people look at that one. Also, too, there's traffic everywhere. We're not going to avoid it. The problems of the speeding on Eastview are problematic, and as Councilman O'Connor indicated, we do have a speed signal there, but we will be contacting the precinct and requesting that they increase enforcement. And I'm certain that a lot of people that live in the area are going to start getting tickets.
So
Because generally are the people that live in the area that are doing the speeding.
there's a flashing signal as you approach the ball fields. And it records your vehicle's speed as you're going past it. People don't pay attention to it. Maybe we should ask our safety people, highway safety people, to put the speed trailer on the other side of the roundabout, closer to Islip Landings, to help negate some of the speeding after you get through the roundabout.
All right. And we will have traffic safety go out there and do an analysis and see if there are any other further enhancements we can do to reduce that speeding on Eastview.
Madam Supervisor, can I just chime in briefly on the covenants and restrictions prepared by the planning department, which we have reviewed and consent to? I would direct you guys to item number 21, which requires the applicant to install a significant amount of signage in and about that roundabout to address those concerns. They've reviewed that and they've agreed that that is to their benefit and to the community's benefit.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions or comments to the applicant? I'll entertain a motion.
No, I have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The residents that were talking about traffic on Eastview, I think they underestimated, because my son played soccer. When at 5 o'clock at night, when Lowell Avenue gates go down, the train gates, you're there for 25 minutes, 30 minutes. And now on Carlton, if you're doing traffic study at, 1 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, it's not 3 o'clock on a Monday evening, because when it goes north and it goes from 2 lanes to 1 lane and the train goes by, it backs up. We talked about this when you came to us board a couple years ago. And I think what we're not factoring into in your traffic study is the Central Islip Fire District is putting a new substation, and the towns require them to put a stoplight in there, right, Chief? At $200,000. That's on Eastview Drive. That was not factored in your study, was it?
I believe it was factored into the study. All new developments identified by the planning department were included in our study. That study indicated that the surrounding roadway could handle the additional traffic. That was reviewed by LK and McLean Associates, the town's consultant, who agreed with that. So I understand your concern. There's no doubt that there will be additional traffic generated here.
Oh, no, but the realization is these residents are right. Now we have the double train tracks. We have all this stuff going into the city. It's increasing the track, the gates going down the train tracks. And that backs up not just south, also north of the track. So it's a real concern, and I push you to bring that up. And again, the substation that's being built, that when they go out to a fire, because we have more exposure now for our Central Islip volunteers, you're gonna put others stop. But I agree with the supervisor and Councilman O'Connor that we have to get more visible, more signs, more control of Eastview.
And I can assure you that the applicant has agreed to assist the town and provide whatever they've required inside of these CNRs.
Thank you. And thank you, residents, for bringing that up.
Thank you. And I think the fact that the head of Civic Council came and commended you for the development, for being so transparent and working so closely with the community. I know when you first broached the town on this, I think one of the first things I remember saying was that you need to engage the community. You need to work with the community. And we want the community to come here saying we want this. And so many wonderful positive things have happened in Central Islip. The $10 million grant that we got from New York State Economic Development broke ground about 2 months ago for the sewer. Sorry for the detours and everything that are happening on Carlton Avenue, but it's an inconvenience that is going to be so worthwhile down the road. So bear with us. It's an exciting time for this community. And I, for one, want to thank you for your faith and confidence in the wonderful community, the wonderful hamlet of Central Islip.
Madam Supervisor, that is a testament to Joe and Glenn Mastrito and Arnold Marcus, the Marcus family. They have made a commitment to this community, and they will remain committed to this community for decades.
Great. Okay, on that note, I would like, did I hear we have to,
Make a motion to declare the town the lead agency, right, Sean? That's the first motion we need to make.
okay, so motion by Councilman O'Connor, second by Councilman Guadron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Town of Islip will be the lead agency on the project. So then we have a motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing, issue the negative declaration, and adopt the resolution as presented to the board.
Okay, I think we'll have a communal all for second on that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor, members of
Project
the
is
board.
approved.
No, we got one
No,
more
we have one
decision
more.
item on the laundry room.
We have a decision item.
Just a decision item. We closed the public hearing already.
Yeah, nobody to talk.
I want to leave more than you do. I got to go to Northport.
Oh, God. Oh, that's right. You're going to, I gotta go there. I'll bring you regrets.
We have to vote on something else, everyone. We're still on the
We
board.
don't need them. They're leaving. Let them leave and then we'll go. Oh, sorry. No, we should. Well, why would you? I would believe you for it, so.
They told me when it was 80. So.
Oh, my God.
For home on Maui.
Exactly,
That a
exactly.
a new homeowner, a new starting family.
Okay, we have one more item on the agenda.
Wants to be a councilwoman. We'll bring her out to the seat over there. Very good.
We have one more. Thank you. LLC, CZ 2023-007, 0500 370.00, 03.00, 001.007. This is the southwest corner of Montauk Highway and Marvin Lane in Islip, requesting a change from Business 1 to Business 2. The site of the laundromat to construct mixed-use building with 5 apartments. There were discussion on this as far as the hours of operation were concerned. And it was requested that there be no overnight operations because we're gonna have people living up there. And I think it, passing a laundromat at 2 or 3 in the morning, is sometimes problematic, and especially when you've got people living upstairs and people hanging out downstairs. Where are we at with that?
Good evening, Madam Supervisor, members of the board. Yes, after our last, yes, Raymond Giusto, Giusto, 715 South Country Road, West Bay Shore, New York. My client, the principal of my client, Tony Falzone, is also here tonight, in case you have any questions. I just want the board to know, the laundromat has been open for about 2 years now, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there's been no incident, there's been no problem. Mr. Falzone also owns and operates another laundromat in this community in the town of Islip at 1597 Manatuck Boulevard in Bay Shore. It's a much less desirable area than this. He's open for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There have been no incidents at his location since, and that's been open for how long? 12 years. He has implemented some procedures at that facility, and after our last meeting, I reached out to Sean and I said, listen, maybe I wasn't clear. Here's what we're willing to do as conditions to go forward on this. I know Tony's dying to talk to you, but basically, it's his impression that at nighttime, that's the least possible time that there's going to be problems. If there's problems at any time, it's when it's crowded. And he's never had a problem, but it would occur during the day when it's crowded. But with that said, we told Sean we're willing to be closed between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. every day. There will be a manager on site at all times. The store will never be open without a manager present. The doors, yeah, at all, even when you're closed. Okay. So there'll be someone on site at all times. The doors of the use will be locked at midnight. The manager will be there. There'll be no admittance unless someone comes to the door and has laundry and is buzzed in by the manager. Again, we've agreed to that as a condition. Security cameras will be operational at all times on the exterior and interior of the premises. Where he's located now, he has security, that sign saying security. He's advertising the use of security cameras. I think your signs say no selling of drugs or loitering is prohibited.
Mhm.
I'm on the corner of Hemlock and
Yeah, it was a problem there 2 weeks ago.
I've been there for 12 years.
Jeff, you're the guys of the town. I don't have any town problems. I don't have problems with the police. Any problems that do happen during regular business from the clock, 2:00 in the morning, 1:00 in the morning, the store's in and out.
The record isn't getting any of this. The record's not getting any of this. because you have to
really-
come To the microphone and give your name. Otherwise, the court reporter is just hearing a voice
Yeah.
from the.
My name's Anthony Falzone. I'm the owner of the laundry room and our laundry room, and also Spin City Laundromat in Bay Shore.
Spin City's on the corner of Sunrise and Brentwood Road?
No, I'm on 1597 Manatuck Boulevard. Valentino's Pizza is my tenant.
And Hemlock.
With the Hemlock Apartments behind me and in front of me. It is a very bad neighborhood. There's a lot of trouble over there. I have 20-something cameras installed. I post signs on the windows. Everything's being recorded and turned over to the police. I'm on the premises myself. I'm there all the time. Islip is a lot better neighborhood. I don't have any of the issues that was over in the Bay Shore, but anything that happens in the store happens during regular hours. Nothing happens after 12. It's not a zoo. Like when it gets to those hours that we're all talking about, there's nobody in the store. There's a cleaner. Maybe I get one person in there. As far as the noise on the upstairs of the apartments, there's going to be 5 apartments, hopefully. My daughter is taking one of them. There's not going to be any noise. There is no noise in the laundromat. Whatever happens downstairs, 1 or 2 machines, I promise you and I swear to you, it's not going to be going to the second floor. There's no noise whatsoever.
Okay, I can appreciate everything that you're saying. They are at different locations. The laundromat on Manatuck and Hemlock does not have apartments above it, as I recall.
No, it does not.
Okay, so this is kind of a different use and a different situation. But I will say I applaud you and I thank you for your willingness to work with us and the fact that you're willing to keep it closed from 2 in the morning to 5 in the morning. I think at the end of the day, you'll be happier with that kind of
I
scenario.
can deal with that. What I'd like to say also is I'm 7 years into this, over $5 million with another $500,000 to spend. I'm working 2 years in this store. I've yet to receive a salary. I'm paying $30,000 a month just in my rent, property taxes, and my machine costs. I should be recouping half of it from the upstairs, but I'm 26 months in business without a salary and $5 million, of which $2 million is out of pocket.
Well, you made that decision and
know that, but
hopefully
I
it's a good one.
Yeah, right, and I did that with the intention of making everything nice and putting it up there. And I promise you, it's not going to be any problems with the apartments upstairs. Like the noise and everything that everybody's anticipating, it's just not there.
Okay, let's not
I just want to
belabor
say,
the point.
we did agree as a condition to have the windows, exterior walls, and flooring of the apartments to incorporate sound, attenuating materials, and best practices to mitigate sound received from the commercial use and parking lot of the subject building. We've agreed to that as a condition.
And we appreciate your willingness to cooperate, and I know I speak for the department too. Does anybody have any comments or questions at this point? All right,
I go by your location every day, a couple of times. You've done a great job cleaning that piece of property up. Want to give you a heads up, last night I got a couple complaints about 9:30 at night. The homeless shelter now that's going to be right down the street from you, the gunfire went off last night, I think 9:20, where everybody came in the site. So that little complex, Islip Bay Shore area, it's a son, and its supervisor and its board is trying to stop the homeless shelter from going in there. But that's what I think the supervisor's right, is we now have 26 people that have nothing to do in the middle of the night, and you're one of the places that are open. That I hate to say it, it's
They
something.
cannot get in my doors. My doors are locked. They need to get buzzed in. I've had a store in Wyandanch that I ran the same way. When you came into my store, I had a list of rules on the door. Okay, I'm not like all the other laundromat owners. I feel like I'm better. When people come in my store, women and children, they're treated with respect. I don't allow profanity. I don't allow people on the property drinking. I own the properties. I'm allowed to do that. And I do that. I do that in Bay Shore and I do it in Islip. But I'm there for over 2 years. There has not been any problem. And I got to say that there's probably not a better owner or owner that cares more than me. because a lot of these owners are there for the money, which I am hopefully gonna get my money someday, but
We have faith that you will. Mr. Falzone, you have an attorney who's there to speak for you. And the hearing has already been closed, so we're allowing you that sort of privilege, if you will, because of your willingness to work with us. And we really, really do appreciate it. And as I said earlier, I think at the end of the day, you're going to be happy that you're not going to be dealing with people hanging out, from 2 to 5 in the morning in your laundromat. And when the cops come and tell them to move, they start with, oh, well, I'm just doing my laundry, and then there's nothing you can do with them. So with it being closed, it'll make it a lot easier. I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Congratulations. Thank you again.
Good night.
Good luck to you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Lorenzo. We stand adjourned. Thank you.